You just got into bed. You're lying in the dark, staring at the ceiling. You want to have sex with your partner who is right there, inches away, and somehow the distance feels like miles. You hesitate to initiate because on your own, your erections are reliable. Everything works the way it's supposed to. But with your partner, it's different. Sometimes you can't get hard. Sometimes you can, and then you lose it for no reason you can name. And that feels scary and confusing and isolating. But it's probably not what you think. This is video 1 of a 5-part series for heterosexual couples navigating exactly this pattern: reliable erections alone during masturbation and inconsistency with partnered sex. Each video builds on the one before it, and each comes with a free downloadable resource linked in the description, so you can walk away from each of these with something in your hands, not just something in your head. First things first though, if you have not talked to a doctor yet, that is step 1. Hormonal shifts, circulation, medications, underlying medical issues, real physical factors can affect erections and need to be ruled out before anything else. If there's an untreated physical issue, the mental and emotional work is not going to hold. So this series is for those of you who've done that and are still experiencing inconsistency with a partner. Let's get into it. Because here's what I want you to sit with. Same body, same wiring, different context, different result. If this were purely a physical problem, it probably wouldn't matter where you were, but it does matter for you. So what's different isn't the hardware, what's different is the software, what your brain has decided that moment means. Because when you're alone, there's no audience. There's no one to disappoint but yourself. But the moment you're with someone whose opinion of you matters, your brain's going to run a different calculation entirely. And that recalculation can change everything and impact your ability to get and sustain an erection. Here is the simplest way I like to explain what's happening. Think of your sexual response like a car. You have an accelerator, the things that move you towards arousal and pleasure, and you have a brake, the things that turn you off and move you away from arousal. Because this is the part of your nervous system that is scanning for reasons to stop to protect yourself. And for most people navigating this pattern of inconsistent erections with a partner, the accelerator is actually working just fine. The problem tends to be the brake. The brake is not your enemy. It is a survival system. Its job is to scan for threat and to say, no, not right now. There are other things that need to be addressed first. The problem is it cannot reliably tell the difference between a real physical threat and an emotional threat, like the fear of disappointing someone you love. To your nervous system, those two things can feel identical. So it does what it is built to do. It pumps the brakes. Not because you don't want to be there, not because desire is missing, because your nervous system has determined that this is not a safe moment to be vulnerable and allow for an erection. And here's the part that tends to land the hardest. The more you care, the more sensitive that brake can become. This doesn't happen with people you're indifferent to. It happens with people who matter most, where a perceived failure doesn't just sting, it feels like it says something about everything. And that's not dysfunction, that's attachment. And those are two very different things. Now, I want to make a quick note here that erection inconsistency or unreliability can definitely happen with people who are not in long-term relationships, but there is something different happening there that we are not addressing in this video. Let me tell you about a couple I'll call Daniel and Sarah. Now, these stories are always composites. These are patterns that I've seen across many people, never just one person or one couple. I would never share identifying information with my clients. Now, Daniel came to me after about 18 months of inconsistency. He was reliable on his own during solo sex, masturbation, but completely unpredictable with his partner, Sarah. And he was someone who solved problems through analysis and effort in his work and his personal life. And this issue of his inconsistent erections just wasn't responding to either. And he felt like he had tried everything. He had done different timing and less pressure and more pressure, and none of it was working because none of it was addressing what was actually happening. What we eventually found somewhere along the way, without either of them choosing it, the bedroom had stopped being a place Daniel got to land. It became a place he felt like he had to perform. He described it like this: I feel like I'm taking an exam that I used to ace, and now I blank the second the paper's in front of me. That is anticipatory anxiety, the dread that arrives before anything has even happened. His nervous system had been through enough difficult moments that it stopped treating each one as a fresh start. It started predicting failure before he walked through the door. And the harder he tried to override it, the worse it got. Because effort can activate exactly the same system that shuts down intimacy. You cannot decide to feel safe. Safety is not a thought, it's a physiological state. And pushing harder is the opposite of what creates it in these types of situations. But this is not a Daniel problem. This is a couple problem. It's a relational problem because there's another person in that room in that intimate moment. And Sarah had drawn her own conclusion from those same experiences, the same inconsistencies. She decided that he probably wasn't attracted to her anymore, and she felt rejected. So she stopped initiating. And Daniel started going to bed later, waiting until Sarah was already asleep. And he told me, I hate that I do that, but it feels safer than another night of disappointing her and feeling not good enough. Two people, both trying to protect the other, both creating exactly the distance they were most afraid of. And this is what I mean when I say the context becomes broken. Not the relationship, not the love, not the desire, just the context. And it often starts with something completely ordinary. Stress, feeling tired, a few drinks, medication, a single night that didn't go the way either of them wanted, not having an erection or not being able to maintain one. What turns it into a pattern, though, isn't that night. It's usually the silence that follows, the conclusions that are drawn in that silence, the anticipation that starts arriving before the experience does. And once that happens, you've moved from a performance problem to more of a conditioning problem. So here's what I want to offer you. What we're dealing with is not a physical failure. Your body hasn't changed. Your desire is most likely still there. What has changed is the meaning your brain has assigned to this context, this room, this person, this moment. Your brain has shifted into protection mode. It decided this was high stakes. And in high stakes situations, it prioritizes your safety over pleasure. That is not dysfunction. That is your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. It just picked the wrong situation to protect you. The fact that this is difficult, specifically with somebody you love, is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of investment. You are not broken. The context is broken. Now, before I tell you what to do about that, I need to tell you what not to do. Because the most common response to this pattern is the one that can make it worse. Pushing through, trying harder, deciding that tonight is the night you're going to get out of your head. And every time you do that, even when it technically works but feels effortful and monitored, you are teaching your nervous system to associate this person, this room, this moment with tension. You're not just surviving the night. You're wiring the next chapter of the pattern. The relationship doesn't need fixing. The wiring doesn't need replacing. What needs to shift is the meaning the context is carrying. And that is something we can actually work with. Understanding the pattern is absolutely necessary, but it's definitely not enough. And I'm not going to leave you here. In video 2, I'm going to name the mechanism that I hinted at in Daniel's story, the one that operates in real time, mid-experience, turning you into your own critic when you're supposed to be present. It has a name, and once you have it, you can start to interrupt it. I'll see you there.